So the Women's World Cup is on the horizon and the Lionesses are looking strong, looking very, very good. I want to talk about what the future holds for England's women because, I mean, Serena Wiegman has done unbelievable stuff with them, haven't lost a game as of yet. And I'm sort of looking at the squad and there's just, the last 3 games, very different lineups for all 3 of them in the Arnold Clark tournament, won all 3 games in that one. There's going to be some real casualties when it comes to this England squad going to the World Cup, isn't there?
I think just touching on Serena Wiegman and her impact on England, I think this is a new era for England and a new sort of...
I wanted to ask you about that, just because... Sorry to cut you off. Because you're right off the back of winning the Euros. Do you want a new era? Or do you want to just kind of retain the momentum?
No. Serena Wiegman coming to as an England manager was a new era because they obviously had the disappointment of the Olympics Team GB. Serena Wiegman coming in and this momentum that they got with the Euros. It's like a new slate when she came in because of this incredible run that they've gone on now. The fact that they are unbeaten, they're beating teams, that they are. I think England this is their best chance to win a World Cup because of the momentum that they are in, the players that they've got at their disposal. The biggest loss is the fact that they won't have Beth Mead. As far as we're aware, she won't be ready for the World Cup, which will just be devastating for her. Yeah. But also they have players, England now, who are just brilliant. The likes of Alessia Russo, Lauren James, who I think is just world class when she's at her best. We've seen her be brilliant in the Women's Champions League as well. I think Serena Wiegman wanted a squad of 26 rather than 23 to take to the World Cup, and that just shows how many players she's got to pick from. And again, I'll use that word, the luxury of the players that she has to choose from. Yeah. And when you look at her best 11, because it's the same when she did at the Euros, she didn't change really at all. She stuck with the players that she wanted to stick with, and it worked. And I think that will ultimately be what is so strong about England, is the fact that they've got this great camaraderie in the squad. It's an exciting time to be watching the Lionesses.
There could be some sort of new stars here though as well, because there is obviously, there's going to be a gentle sort of evolution when the likes of Ellen White retires, Jill Scott retires, 2 crucial players for England. Is it one where we probably don't totally know until they play this World Cup? Some of those other guys who previously were sort of squad players or then starting players, likes of Chloe Kelly, of course, scored the goal. Lauren James, who's got 8 caps so far, so hasn't played too many games. You've got that mix of that alongside the likes of Lucy Bronze, Leah Williamson's been around for a while. Millie Bright's been around for a long while. But in those attacking positions, do you think we're going to see some new stars for England on sort of that world stage?
Oh, we're so lucky at the minute, firstly, to be able to talk about the amount of players that we can speak about. I think, obviously, Serena Wiegman doesn't change it too much, but there's players playing their way into form, playing their way into teams. Laura Coombs back in the England fold, playing really, really well for Man City in an area of the pitch where there could be an opportunity. I think with Ellen White, who's been the main number 9 forward for England, there's another opportunity for someone else. Alex Greenwood, who I thought was unlucky not to play in the Euro. I say unlucky, it worked out in the end, but left back, she could go and be that left back if Rachel Daly moves forward, as we've seen with her success in the WSL this season. So I think the only position, there's competition everywhere, but the one that's still really up for grabs, I think, is that main focal point for England. Russo is having a decent season in the WSL, is playing well. Could she be the one to take it on from Ellen White, or Rachel Daly scoring? She's 4th top goal scorer in the WSL this year for a Villa team.
Goals, yeah.
For a Villa team who are not competing for the title. Could Rachel Daly play in the middle? I think maybe the limitations to Rachel Daly's game maybe lean towards someone like Russo, who's potentially more of a link and a hold up. But there's competition everywhere, and it's so exciting that we're talking about a women's England team who could go and win the World Cup and should believe that they can go and win the World Cup.
Yeah, I think that's the main point, is the belief in it for them to go and win it, which is so exciting. The fact that it's coming up so soon, and a lot of these players are really getting to their peak. I mentioned Lauren James before, but I genuinely think she could be one of the greatest players if she wants to be. Yeah. She's still so young. but the talent that she has, the skills that she has, incredible. She can shoot from anywhere. She will be, I think, a real differential for England going into the World Cup if she can be at her best, which, you know, she's got players around her, and then you've got the likes of Kira Walsh, who is just an outstanding midfielder who absolutely deserves, and I'm so glad she finally is getting the plaudits that she deserves from that England team, because she was sometimes overlooked. And, you know, sometimes you look at the,
that
you know,
pass in the final,
but also, like, you'll look at, you know, when they do the teams of the tournament and things like that, and if there was ever a time she was overlooked, and I just think, how can you overlook a player like Kira Walsh, who is so vital for that England team? And the fact that she moved to Barcelona, I think was a great move for her, record-breaking.
Makes total sense as well with the kind of player she is. She just makes it look lovely, doesn't
exactly, and I think that will have really helped, especially because they're still fighting the Champions League as well. This is something, you know, a competition that she would have wanted to win. So I think there's a lot of players in that England squad that are still, you know, fighting for the WSL title, fighting in Europe, and all of those things. If they can get success in that, will just help, you know, create that team spirit and that, you know, that push for trying to be at your absolute best. And I think a lot of these players at the moment, if you look at them, are at their absolute peak.
And I think there's only, I'm not going to say which ones, but there's only a few positions I think that are guaranteed starts for England. I think there's a handful in there who I think definitely play every game under Serena Wiegman, and the rest go and earn your spot. Go and get in there. And
we're talking about
a
team that can go and win it, and it feels like they could go and comfortably win it. WSL is an interesting point to make, actually, because what you have here is you have a group of players that are used to playing incredibly tense, tight games at the top end of football. The league never disappoints in terms of those teams that are up there. Fran Kirby as well, as a player that, you know, 65 times played for England. It's been like, she's been so crucial for England for so long. Imagine having a team where, you know, you haven't got Fran Kirby and you haven't got Beth Mead, and we haven't even spoken about Hemp. Like, she's amazing as well. Dripping in talent. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. I'm interested to see as well when it comes to Russo. Previously, she sort of came on, made that difference, real game changer. And again, this squad has all those, but it'll be different for her. The pressure will be on her to be that starting striker, because I think deep down it is going to be her, isn't it?
I think it will be. Alessia Russo. You know, she. The pressure is on, but at the same time, it was also on at the Euros, and look what she did. I mean, who does that as a player? You know, and she did so well. And I think that is what helped so much with the Women's Euros is that momentum that was carried with those players, is the fact that they were able to play with such huge crowds, and how great that we did get such amazing crowds, and especially at that final at Wembley. Brilliant atmosphere, and the fact that they were able to live up to that occasion, England, I think that was an important step for them, and now they're going into this World Cup. They will be, if I was a player in that England squad, I'd be going, come on, try and beat us, because nobody has been able to do it yet. And looking forward to the game against Brazil, that friendly that they've got coming up will be a really, really interesting one to see where Brazil are at in terms of their squad and how they're going to be coming into the World Cup and the strength that they've got. I do still think that England have got too much in their squad to be beaten. I was at the friendly against USA a couple of months ago as well, and that was a good game. And, you know, USA were at the peak. You know, they were the team to beat. And, you know, they still have great players in their squad, and they still will definitely be a tricky nation to try and overcome. But I think now it's all in, you know, England's hands, where they can say, you know, we overcame the best teams in Europe. Let's give it a go at the World Cup.
Not just that, those players will never be under as much pressure as they were at a home Euros, a sold-out Wembley Stadium, to change the whole narrative of a country's footballing stage and the international scene, but also that they're never going to experience that much pressure again. The World Cup, I don't think will feel like that much pressure compared to what they've just been through. And that core group that have won under that pressure are going to be the same, with a few added in. Yeah. And I think that will have set them up the best way possible to go and enjoy the World Cup and have the belief that we can win. I
think as well, we were talking about that four-way title race. I've never seen a WSL season be this close in terms of the four teams, and I am glad that Manchester United women have now come into that mix, where they were constantly sort of finishing fourth, and there was still a gap between Manchester United and then City, Arsenal and Chelsea, whereas now it's so close. There's a date to remember to put in your diaries, the 21st of May, which will be a Manchester United against Manchester City, Arsenal against Chelsea. No. That is the day that the WSL title will be decided. I'm sure of it, because of the games that they've got coming up. How exciting. But if you look at that England squad, the amount of players that play in all 4 of those teams, so they're fighting on those fronts. And I mentioned already the Champions League as well. So there are plenty of players in that squad that know how to win, that have that fight to win. And come the end of this season, whoever does win the WSL, whoever wins the Champions League, there is going to be, unless it's Wolfsburg that win the Champions League, there's going to be someone in that England team that will have won a major trophy. Yeah,
all those ingredients are great. I think the average age of the team last game out was 26, which, you've obviously got a lovely mix of players that some are a little bit older, been there, but regardless of whatever that age would be, you've actually got a new wave, so that sprinkling of sort of fresh impetus there. But as you say, huge experience in that group in terms of the experiences that they've had of those big games, big moments, big crowds as well. It's going to be a fantastic crowd. And there was a great stat here. I thought this is just a great moment to kind of look at women's football, because if you look at the last 3 times England have played Brazil on English soil, so this is the UEFA Finalissima, which is the Euro winners against the Copa America winners. The last 3 games, last one was in 2018 at Meadow Lane, then it was at the Riverside Stadium, and then Thursday's game being played at Wembley, and it's going to be an unbelievable sort of just moment just to see again all those faces selling it out easily these days. When it comes to that game, you spoke about the American side of it. Is that quite smart for England to you've dominated Europe? Let's play the likes of Australia. Let's play the likes of Brazil, and understand what those guys are going to offer again, so that there aren't any surprises going into that World Cup.
I guess it's perfect preparation. We've gone against the best in Europe, came out on top. Let's go and see what some other countries are about. They'll know the players they're playing up against, but just to have that test of playing against different nations, I think is key. And the preparations have been spot on so far. And it's just another game where win at Wembley against a team who have also won, and it's another one ticked off. And another scalp ahead of the World Cup.
Final, maybe this is an odd question. Is there any merit in just losing a game just so that's that's done? Do you know what I mean? Because that builds in itself.
I see the point. Yeah. I see the point where you're coming from. However, I think that team is made full of winners. Yeah. I don't think there's any, whatever game it is, whether it be a friendly, whether it be the Arnold Clark Cup, whether it be the final of a World Cup, I think they will approach it every game knowing in the back of their minds we have to win this game, because not just to prove a point, but I think just the fact that that mentality has to continue with every game. I don't think there's any player, and you will know as a footballer, that will go into a game thinking, we can probably lose this one, we'll be, And the fact that these games are being played, these friendlies in preparation for the World Cup, are being played here in the UK, at one of them at Wembley Stadium, there is that level of expectation, and they will absolutely want to live up to it, and they will 100%. I mean, it's England women, so I think they will. I understand the point, but I don't think they'll look at that way. I don't even think they'll think about the fact that they're unbeaten. I think they'll just take it mentally each game.
Mentality-wise, I don't see any complacency in that group, in that group of players. I think winning is expected, and these are people who they've lost games for their clubs. They've lost games in an international.
Yeah, you don't need to know how to lose.
How to lose. They will be expecting to win, and I believe that the culture that Serena Wiegman's brought in is, if they did lose, there'd be no panic. I don't think. Yeah. It would just be cool, go again, because we've got enough to go and compete with the very best in the world. And I think you mentioned they're full of winners. Got players who play in Europe who are competing at the top end or are winning the titles, who come back with England and are ready to go and lift trophies. And I think that's the main motivation for that group of players.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.